Autism, A Piece of the Puzzle from Someone on the Spectrum by Ariel. Can you tell I have autism just by looking at me? Many disabilities are invisible. Do not judge what you cannot see. Laura Henretti. This quote is how I feel many times over the last 20 years during my journey to come to terms with my autism diagnosis. Every time I have gotten to the point where I accept I am autistic, there is someone around me who is clueless about autism. So, I have been educating many people what it is like to have autism, at least for me. In order to understand why I am talking about autism, you must get to know me, first. I was diagnosed with autism, but because I am so high functioning, many people have told me many times I could not be autistic. I was 4 years older than the average diagnosed as a toddler. Also, autism is more common in boys than girls. So, most of my life there have been so many people who did not believe I was autistic. The formal diagnosis was PDD-NOS, which is a catch-all on the autism spectrum disorder if you do not have classic autism, the thing most people think when you say autism, or Asperger's syndrome, another type of high functioning. As you can notice, I am not speaking in this video because I still sound like an 8-year-old. It is one of the only things I am self-conscious about. This is because the speech teacher used to yell about my voice being so high, but it has not changed in all these years, so I am just used to it now. In society today, that is okay that I do not like to talk on the phone since we are texting more than ever. So, once I had the diagnosis of autism, my autism journey started with the local public school. I was so high functioning that I confused the local school system in whether I belonged in resource classes or the mainstream classroom. I have always been smart, but because I struggle with reading and writing, they thought I belonged in resource class more than mainstream classroom. By the age of 12, I was being bullied so much for being different, and the fact they kept pulling me out of mainstream classroom. Almost every afternoon I came home in tears. The following year, we decided it was time to take me out of public school and put me in a private school. This private school was supposed to be a place where I could grow into myself, which did not happen until after graduating in 2008. A few factors played into this. The first reason, before I turned 18, was to make sure my accommodations were ready when I decided to go to college, or if I decided to go college. I will never forget the doctors telling my mother, because she was the only parent with me at the testing, I would not make it in college, and if I did I would have to take one class at a time, especially when it came to sciences. I was able to do more than that. I was able to take 2 or 3 classes a semester to graduate. The second reason, I was told by a teacher in my senior high school that I would not make it in college, so do not even worry about it. The day after she told me that, I signed up for community college. The last reason is the main way my autism affected me is when I am overwhelmed in sensory or in general. I cry, and many people have yelled at me for getting overwhelmed. Over the last couple years, I have realized that those who yell at me for getting overwhelmed, plus the bullying I experienced over the years by many people, have led to me to have anxiety. Those people at this private school were not as accepting as we first thought. Just like the public school, they even divided us into a group of mainstream children and special education kids. For the first 12 years of my autism journey, I had the label of special education kid until I graduated high school, and I finally was able to be like everyone else with a few differences. So the last 8 years have been the second part of my autism journey. I enrolled at the local community college in spring of 2008. I did student orientation on my 19th birthday. The first semester was fall of 2008. I took student development skills and reading development. It was not until that point in my life, no one taught me the point of reading. Reading resource teachers could not figure out a way to teach me. Instead of being bothered with that, they just passed me along through the system. In the last month, I figured out I actually enjoy reading if it is audiobooks instead of paperback book. Over the next couple years, I gained more skills and came out of my shell more. My grades were good enough to be invited to join Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society in fall of 2010. In the spring of 2012, I had a friend who was involved in Student Government Association suggest that I get involved as a senator. When I graduated in the spring of 2016, I was vice president/co-president for Student Government Association for school year of 2015 to 2016. In the spring of 2014, I joined Student Ambassadors, which added new skills on how to be part of my community. In the spring of 2015, I was invited to join the National Society of Leadership and Success, which was based on my student leadership skills and grades, and to become an inducted member was a four-step process completed in spring of 2015. During the 2015 to 2016 school year, I was student president for the National Society of Leadership and Success. In the fall of 2015, I was invited to join the Sigma Kappa Delta Honor Society for my English grades. The more I was involved on campus, the more I figured out my difference made it easy for me to look at student leadership situations differently, which is a great thing. In the spring of 2016, I was able to prove the doctors and that teacher from high school wrong. I walked across the stage and got my associate degree with a GPA of 3.5 and honors, along with all the other stuff I accomplished with my degree. When I was taking Biology 101 in the fall of 2014, I figured out that the autistic traits rise is connected to a rise in society's use of technology. Now, after 20 years on my autism journey, I have finally learned to embrace the fact that I have autism and some abilities that come with it. One of the biggest abilities that came with my autism is my view of the world, which I show when I am taking pictures of the world around me. Now that you know a little bit about me, I am talking about autism as someone who is on the spectrum, because most people that do not have autism do not know what it is like to have something in your body go haywire on you. Autism spectrum disorders represent an abnormality of brain development and function, most appearing within the first 3 years of life. There are 3 main types of autistic disorder: classic autism, Asperger's disorder, and atypical autism, PDD-NOS. Most people recognize autism as impairment of social interaction, impairments of communication and play, and restricted or repetitive interests and activities, according to CDDH Victoria's fact sheet about autism. Impairment of social interaction includes aloofness and failure to develop friendships and relationships, seeking people's company but lacking the ability to engage in two-way social interactions, one-sided or repetitive social interactions, awkward, avoidant or indifferent eye contact, inability to understand social rules, impaired understanding of other people's motivations, and lack of spontaneously seeking to share enjoyment with others. Impairment of communication and play includes a delay in or lack of development of speech without any compensatory forms of communication, for example gestures, significant difficulty in initiating and sustaining a conversation, in those with speech, and lack of imitation of others. Restricted or repetitive interests and activities includes interests that are excessively narrow, intense or unusual, adherence to rigid routines, intolerance of change, stereotyped and repetitive motor mannerisms. For example, as a college student, I disliked having to go to the testing center on campus because I can hear every single noise even if someone else cannot hear it, for example that mean the rattling fluorescent lights and papers, and that is very distracting when I try and focus on taking a test. Almost all the social skills I have as an autistic adult, I was taught over many years of therapy. I still have issues with being obsessed with a topic. This is a part of my autism that drives many people crazy in my life. It is worse when I am stressed or anxious. Imagine this: the ammonia of glass cleaner, the smell of recently microwaved salmon advancing down the hallway, the staggered shock waves of closing lockers, a cold machine pulse of fluorescent lights, the blast of air conditioning, the loudspeaker announcement echoing through every solid surface, the scrape of a clothing tag, an unrelenting bouquet of perfume stuck on someone's jacket, the glare ricocheting from the passing cars through metal blinds, the person 20 feet away that seems an inch and a half from your face, the ticking on the clock no one else hears. All while trying to focus on someone speaking to you. This situation for a person with autism is what it can feel like on a regular basis in the classroom. My teacher never thought about the fact when I would have a meltdown it was because I was overwhelmed with everything at once. I figured out when I feel overwhelmed by too much going on in my environment, that is when I put my headphones and to listen music and take a half-hour break from what I was doing at the time. The type of autism that I have is PDD-NOS, which is pervasive development disorder, not otherwise specified. It is a diagnosis given to an individual who displays some features that suggest autism, but does not fully meet the criteria of autism. Usually, an individual with PDD-NOS does not have intellectual delays, thus their behaviors are mistaken as being stubborn, selfish, or defiant. However, it is a neurological and developmental disorder, and does not result from lack of discipline. Characteristics of pervasive development disorder not otherwise specified include repetitive behaviors and activities, obsessive interests in specific topics, difficulty with interacting with peers, and/or impaired verbal or nonverbal communication skills. I have an easier time interacting with my peers than I did when I was growing up. My communication skills still are affected in written form. When I write something, I leave out words and my brain puts the words back in at spots or not all. The people in my life have figured out how to make sense of what I am trying to say, and most of the time I do not have any issues with people being nasty about my communication issues. There are some people who think I am stupid because I am autistic. I always say they are the stupid people in the world because they write me off before actually learning anything about me. Most time I do not find autism to be the struggle, I find other people's understanding of autism to be the struggle. Person on the autism spectrum in written form. My brain actually changes my writing to put words back into my writing, and so many people in my world have learned to fill the words that are missing. Autism is the difference that the world needed, took too long to recognize, is in process of understanding and has yet to be accepted. Stuart Duncan. I need the world to be aware of what it is like to have autism. The Autism Awareness ribbon is a puzzle pattern which reflects the mystery and complexity of autism. The different colors and shapes represent the diversity of people and families living with this disorder. The brightness of the ribbon signals hope through research and increasing awareness in people like you. There needs to be more awareness of autism because with more awareness comes acceptance. As a member of the autism community, what I want more than awareness is to be accepted for who I am, a person with autism. Think different. Here is to the crazy ones. The misfits. The rebels. The troublemakers. The round pegs in the square holes. The ones who see things differently. They are not fond of rules. And they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you cannot do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world, are the ones who do. Apple Incorporated. I challenge each one of you, think differently when it comes to dealing with people around you, because never know may have autism. Thank you for listening and watching this video.